What's up, everybody? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. CoCo Vandeweghe here with us. World Team Tennis All Star event coming up on Saturday. CoCo, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little stir crazy, but getting some runs in, and the dog's more sick of me than anything.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a German Shepherd. She's chilling right next to me right now.
Love it. So you're not usually home, so I'm sure your German Shepherd is happy to have you home, but also probably a little annoyed because she's like, this is my territory.
Yeah, that, and she's like, I'm tired of going for all these runs. Like, enough is enough. There was a run yesterday where I was pulling her at the start to be like, come on, we got to go up this hill. She was not happy.
How long have your runs been typically?
3 miles or so. I mean, that's as much as I can actually tolerate before I'm like, all right, I'm bored. I get bored like everybody else on a run. I'm not one of those that like appreciates the nature of it all. I'm just like, no, I'm good.
Have you picked up a tennis racket at all? Try to do anything with it?
I have. I played a little bit on Monday. I'm going to play this afternoon a little bit, just at some private courts here and there, but just trying to keep my eye on the ball, basically. That's about all I can do.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's interesting timing because this World Team Tennis event was like one of the last things that was played before everything got shut down. So what was it like doing that event?
I love the event. I love World Team Tennis. Little did I know it would be one of the last live matches I would play for the year, or at least to this point in the year. And it's so much fun to play World Team Tennis with the atmosphere, the fans, and the music, and the different people you get to play against and play with. It's just so much fun.
And from what I heard, the San Diego crowd was pretty awesome for this event too.
Yeah, it was great. The San Diego tennis fans are amazing. I'm a little bit biased being a San Diegan myself, but we have a big tennis community out here, and for the poor weather that showed up in San Diego, which doesn't happen all the time, they came out in folds and all their warm parka gears, even though it was probably like 50 degrees. So they were dressed to the nines for it.
That's awesome. So for you, obviously coming from a big sports family, when did it feel like tennis was your thing? Like you started doing it as a young girl, but like when did you feel like this is going to be my thing going forward?
I started playing at 11, and I took tennis seriously by 13, 14. Started canceling out all the other sports that I played. I was one of those kids that played everything. I was told, if you're not outside playing a sport, you're inside doing homework, and homework didn't sound all that fun to me. So I just kept playing sport after sport, and I had an older brother who was close in age, so I just wanted to play every sport he was playing. And my grandfather sat me down and told me, you're going to have to start taking something serious, either basketball or tennis. And so I sat down and thought about it, and I decided I liked tennis better. I liked the individual aspect. I didn't have to depend on anyone. I only had to rely on myself, and whatever I did was kind of what I got out of the sport. And that was a lot of fun for me. On top of that, I had a bad basketball year. I had a group of girls that didn't really appreciate me missing basketball practices for tennis, and vice versa. I was missing tennis practices for basketball. So it was a combination of all those things that got me into tennis.
So how old were you when your grandpa sat you down for this conversation?
I was 13 or 14 years old.
And how was your basketball game? I mean, tennis has worked out pretty well, but how were you as a hooper?
It's poor right now. I went to shot baskets the other day, the first time in probably a year. And I was like, my gosh, I used to be good moving with the ball and stopping and shooting. And I was just goofing around and played a little horse. I still can, have some trick shots. Underhand free throw is nice. One of my specialties. I also nailed one from behind the basket over the top for the win. So horse, I'm still a danger player out there, but I'm not as good as I once was, that's for sure.
I like the fact that you played a bunch of different sports growing up. I think we see a lot of specialization these days. How do you think that impacted you in terms of your tennis career now?
I think that made me a better athlete. I think tennis gets specialized a lot, very young age. I started really late too, on top of that. But I find that takes away the athletic ability of a kid. I think you can learn so much about body positioning and balance and all sorts of different aspects of how to move from different sports. Because if you play one thing, you're going to be just putting yourself in a box, I think, as an athlete. And It's actually going to be interesting to see what the next generation of athlete looks like, because this generation of kids growing up is specializing really early in a lot of different sports. But I'm very thankful I played a lot of different sports, and it kept me interested in tennis, because tennis is a very difficult sport to play as a young kid. It's a lot of hours of repetition and drilling, which is kind of boring in general. I still find it boring now as an adult. I'd rather go play, games. It's way easier to play a pickup game of basketball than it is to play a pickup game of tennis. And so as much as coaches can find fun in tennis with games and that sort of atmosphere, and after school clinics was one of my specialties. I love that, just being in a team atmosphere. I think that's why I love World Team Tennis so much right now, is because it brings back that team atmosphere that I crave.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you get started a little bit later, and then the cool thing is, like, as a junior, you start having some pretty early success. So what were kind of a few of those moments early on where you're like, all right, I'm starting to do my thing. I'm really starting to create a path for myself?
It actually came a little out of nowhere. I made the finals of 18 nationals at 16. I was not a good junior before that. I was very much out of my element, hadn't had the reps that everyone else had had. I had a very different game than everyone else had. I like to move forward. The coach I had loved to have me serve volley, and so my baseline game was very lacking. And it showed definitely when I first started in the pros at 16. But when I won the Junior U.S. Open at 16, it was at that point I was like, I'm going to be pro. I mean, there's nothing else. I'm the best junior in the world at that point. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go pro and try my hand at pro. I don't want to go play college in tennis. It's not anything I want to do. So I turned pro and started playing professionally, and definitely got it handed to me a lot of times. I didn't start feeling comfortable as a professional until I was probably 20, 21. Because if you think of it, a 16-year-old playing against 20-something-year-olds is very much a big difference in development and just physically and mentally. And I was lacking on all fronts. I was very underdeveloped as a teenager. So I definitely had to take my lumps, and I think it made me a better player today.
Is there a match you look back on early on where it's like you just got smoked, but it was actually a good learning lesson for you?
I would definitely have to attest the first time I played U.S. Open, which was at 16. I played the number one player in the world, which opening night, Earth, Wind, and Fire opened up for the match, and I was absolutely scared beyond belief. I had never been on any sort of stage remotely close to this, and I don't think you can ever replicate that feeling. And I was playing the number one player in the world, who was Jelena Jankovic, who ended up making the finals that year, losing to Serena. And the score actually wasn't that bad. It just felt that. It was, I remember tossing up my first serve, the first point of the match, and I thought I was going to hit that thing into the stands. And it's not like those stands are very close. Those stands are good like 30 yards behind the baseline. And I actually hit an ace out wide when I was aiming tee the whole time. So as things work out, that's was one of the matches. I also made the finals of a tournament, my first WTA tournament in Stanford, and I lost to Serena in the finals. And that was also another one of like, okay, I thought I was doing good stuff, but there's still so much more to kind of gain and make myself better.